嗨，大家好，我是老外，欢迎收看《ITA看世界》，一起看世界。这几年，不管是我们的非政府组织，或者是学术单位，跟同属于南岛语族的菲律宾科蒂艾拉地区的原住民族有着密切的接触，在很多的议题上也相互的关注跟支持着。其中，像是我们的自然资源遭到不当开发，传统领域被不法入侵的掠夺时，台湾跟菲律宾这两个国家或许有形式上的不同，但是相同的是，这都在侵犯原住民族的自然主权跟自决权。节目的一开始，我们的主持人杜希先前是访问到了来自科蒂艾拉高山省的原住民人权律师，一起聊一聊最近菲律宾的人权现况以及一些争议事件的最新进展。
Inabayani Duhi Matugang Gualan， 各位观众朋友晚安，欢迎收看《ITA看世界》。Today we are very honored to have a special guest with us. He is from the Philippines and he's a lawyer who works on a human rights violation and also some of the cases that we actually have been providing some relevant information to our audience. And today we'll have him to give us some more update regarding the progress of these cases and also the latest human rights situation here in the Philippines, especially in the Cordillera area. So could you please introduce yourself to our audience first?
Okay, thank you, Madam Jocelyn, and good evening to all viewers of the Taiwan Indigenous TV, most especially, of course, to my fellow members of the indigenous community. My name is Randy Kinaod. I am a lawyer by profession. I came from the indigenous community of the Filipino people in the north of the Philippines, that's the Cordillera, and I will be one of those people who are most affected by the things that we are going to discuss today.
Yeah. So Randy, can you maybe first tell us about what do you see the general situation now you have, especially in the north?
More or less, the situation of the indigenous peoples of the Philippines is more or less similar to the situation of indigenous peoples all around the world. I think that generally the indigenous peoples population or the indigenous peoples communities around the world are the only remaining areas where you still have these natural resources which are not exploited. And these are the same natural resources which the world now is looking to exploit, which necessarily will affect the livelihood and the life of the indigenous peoples, which eventually will lead to a lot of violation of the rights of these indigenous peoples, especially because of the difference in how we view these natural resources to us. And I know that it's the same for all over indigenous populations. To us, natural resources is something that we have to preserve for the generations to come. Yeah. But for the others, the natural resources are there for us to exploit, which necessarily will come in conflict to our views, and ultimately it will result to a lot of human rights violations.
Yeah, as you speak about the human rights violations, because that's very true that it's not only in the Philippines, because we also heard it from Guatemala or some other countries that the indigenous peoples who are fighting against all this invasion or development project, sometimes they are labeled as terrorists or they are attacked by the government. And also now recently there's this one attack in the Philippines. There's this one human rights activist who was shot 4 times just in front of his house. And actually he is a US citizen, but still this could happen to him. So what would you say why this keep happening, and the reason why the government or the authority is attacking those people?
I think that's why we think that now the violation is becoming worse. Yeah. If in the past it's limited to individuals, or the violation of human rights are limited to violation of the rights of individuals, it now becomes a violation of the rights of the community as a whole. And the violators are becoming bold in such a manner that if before they choose whose rights are to be violated, or they choose from among the indigenous people so they can violate their human rights. Today, they have now become bolder. I mean, it is immaterial now whether you're a U.S. citizen helping the indigenous peoples of the community.
Yeah.
It is now immaterial whether you're a lawyer. It's now immaterial whether you're a government official. For as long as you're expressing your dissent or rejection to the policies of the government that you think is not helping the people, you already become a terrorist. In fact, there's no more difference between one who is expressing himself against some development projects by legitimate dissent, and from somebody who is expressing himself by the use of armed resistance. Whether you are armed or not, you are considered an enemy of the state. Worse, you are considered a terrorist, and once you are in that list, you are in the list of those who can be killed anytime.
Yeah. And because we know there are already a lot of cases, like so-called Trump-up cases against indigenous, not only indigenous, but as far as I know, there are a lot of indigenous activists who are now in prison or in the jail because of all these Trump-up cases, and you are working on some of them, right? Would you be able to maybe provide us some of the information regarding the cases you are working on?
I think it's even all over the Philippines that one of the strategies of the government right now in treating what they call the enemy of the states, it's either they get killed. For those who are not killed, the cases are filed against them. So that in the Cordillera, for example, we in fact have women who are by their physical limitations could not really become an army. And they are not really members of the army because we have an army. We have what we call the New People's Army in the Cordillera fighting against the government, are easily branded as members or at least supporters of this army. And just because of that, cases are filed against them. We know that when a people's army or when the army conduct ambuscades and operation against the government forces, they are not going to show their faces. And what the government do is they have actually a list of the so-called enemies of the state. And every time a military operation happens, they'll just pick from among those names who to file cases against. And most often than not, the only people that they can recognize are those people who are not members of the army because they were the ones talking, conducting rallies, and attending picket lines. So what we have now, for example, in the Cordillera, we have at least 5 women, all of them women, who are facing many or multiple charges of attempted homicide, frustrated murder. In fact, for the other one, we have one who is currently in detention for almost a year already because of these trumped-up charges of frustrated murder. And, you know, just to share, in the Philippines, justice system or the speedy justice system in the Philippines will take years. The problem is, for as long as the case is not finished, and your case is among those which are not bailable, you spend your years and months in jail waiting for your cases to be heard.
So that means, because I know that at least one of them was, I think she was sent to jail last year already.
Yeah, September.
And then how about, like, is there any progress in terms of legal procedure?
The problem is, as of now, the status of that case of Raquel Mariano, who was detained September 2018, 1 year after or today, her case is still submitted for decision. There should be no problem because, you know, we know that she is innocent. The problem is how the legal system works in the Philippines. I always tell the people, just because you are innocent doesn't mean really that you will win your case, because court cases are not really about the truth. It's about the evidence. So when a military man sits in a witness stand and insists that he saw your face in that battle site, that is an evidence that you're there. And we have this principle in law that a government official or a public official is presumed to be regularly performing his duty. So it's very difficult when one sits there and tells a lie that he knows you and he saw you during the encounter. You can't be sure.
Okay.
So Raquel Mariano, for example, while we said from the very start that she is innocent, it stands the possibility that she's going to be convicted. And that's the worst part of everything because
Yeah, because we've heard a lot about these cases going on in the Philippines, and of course it's not like it's not just individual. So and also this whole situation it's actually the whole system is committed this kind of violation against the people. So from your own perspective as a lawyer, what do you say that if there's any possibility that there's a change in this system, what should it start with? Where should it start with?
it will go back to the people themselves because you will notice that temporarily when the people or when the government, let's say the government starts killing the people, temporarily maybe there will be a state of fear. I mean, maybe temporarily some people will start to get feel they're afraid, so momentarily they stop protesting. But eventually, we as human beings, I think that's the main difference between us and the other creatures on earth. We'll soon find out, or from among our from human instinct, we'll find a way to keep fighting because that's the very reason we are here.
And what do you see, because there was actually a midterm election just a couple of months ago, but even though like from us we heard a lot of these kind of cases from the Philippines and we thought the result might be a bit different, at least the amount of number will be a bit lower who support the current regime, but actually it was not. What do you like? What would be the problem, and why most of people are still supporting this government?
That's the challenge. That's the challenge to the people. Although I take some exception to the description that the people are supportive of the government, because even the president right now, he received only 16 million of the votes, and there were actually more than 40 million votes. I think the mass media plays a very great important role in projecting whether the people are really supporting the government or not. But the problem, as I said a while ago, is that there will be a time when people, because of fear, will not be able to express themselves, but eventually it will explode. In case of the elections in the Philippines, because you will realize that most of the administration candidates won nationally. This is our problem with this automated automated election that we are employing in the Philippines, because I think that also means, on the other hand, that there could be automated cheating. I mean, that's the only time where you saw that 12 or all of the candidates of the administration won. That's the only time.
Okay, so again, come back to the system. The whole system is in a way cooperating with each other, and also to create this kind of situation for the people to somehow to rule the people in a way. And maybe we can come back to Cordelia. What do you see, if there's still any other like urgent incident happened recently that you would like to update our audience?
Well, at present today in the Cordillera, the government never backtracked on its view of looking at the Cordillera as a place where to implement what they call the development projects. To the indigenous peoples, this meant more dams, more mining, and a lot of development aggression projects, which will only result to the displacement of the people. I mean, not only in the Cordilleras, even in the Lumad communities in Mindanao, that's why there are killings in Mindanao. In Negros, that's why there are killings in Negros, because those are actually meant to intimidate the people from accepting or into accepting what the government thinks should be done to them. And I can only hope that the people keep fighting. For example, there's this dam, the most recent dam that's going to be constructed, if they will ever succeed, is the Alimit Dam in Ifugao. I mean, the people have already filed their position papers, their opposition, and then suddenly there's this official set of officials in a local government endorsing the dam. So, I mean, there are many points of attacks.
Oh, for me, I myself personally visited Vifgao 2 years ago. That was also about the case of Alimit Dam. And by that time, it was already said the local people, they are conditionally agree. But when we were really there talking to the people, actually, there's no such a thing as conditional agree, but still they manipulate this process. So finally, I would like to ask you a final question about, like, from a legal perspective, is there anything we could do?
Well, I have been a lawyer for 16 years already. The only thing I learned from law is that we should not forget that the law is there to control. So I kept telling the people, while I am a lawyer, we should avoid trying to expect that the law will solve our problems. Because in fact, more often than not, it's the law that creating our problems. The people who created the law or who enacted the law created that law to control us, and which explains why even with not so big a salary for politicians, these businessmen, these landowners are becoming politicians not because of the salary, but because of the opportunity to control the people. So we don't put our hope in the legal system. We don't put our hope on the law, but we put our hope on the organization and the mobilization of the people, so that we, the people ourselves, will put solution to our problem.
Right, okay. So that again come back to the people, even though sometimes there's another group of people creating all this problem, but the solution will be, again, come back to the people themselves. So thank you very much. And of course, we hope for the best for the people in the Cordillera, and also, of course, the indigenous peoples in general in the Philippines, because we've been following all these cases and the development of different cases a lot in Taiwan, because we're very close to each other, and also what you've been through is actually what we are going through. So that's also one thing very important, that is to have more of this information shared publicly and internationally to create more discussion, and also hopefully when we can create also pressure upon the government, even though sometimes it's a long way to go. But we should not give up. We should keep fighting and find the strength among ourselves. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Jocelyn, and may I take this opportunity to thank the people or the viewers of this particular TV station. I really, even if we are here primarily for something else, I really wanted this opportunity to share with the people of Taiwan, because I know our problems are not different from yours. The only difference maybe is the gravity of the problem, but otherwise we have the same issues we have to face, and we should be uniting with each other. And really, I thank everybody for this opportunity.
Thank you for sharing with us. Of course, to build a relationship, to build an international relationship is not just about the economic cooperation. I think it's more important on this basic fundamental rights that we are also standing with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
8月中，美国总统川普突然表示想要向丹麦买下格陵兰，对此，丹麦跟格陵兰当地的居民口径一致的做出批评。稍后有详细的报道。